Hi there, this is Kellyanne with Church Windows. We're going to go ahead and get started with today's webinar. Today we're looking at the visits area of the program. Before we start though, just a few things if you're new to the GoToWebinar using the product. There was a presentation that showed you that, but maybe you just entered and you missed it. On your GoToWebinar toolbar, there's a little reddish orange arrow on the side, and if you click on that, it will minimize it down so it's not blocking what I'm showing you on screen. And then to open it back up, just click that little arrow. Not going to unmute people, but there is a question panel, and you can type questions in there. You might want to wait till the end because I will open it up for questions at the end. And you might find that as I'm working through, your answer might get answered as I'm, showing you the material. Rachel is in the room as well, and she's going to answer any questions if you may have some while I'm showing you the material. But again, I'll open it up at the end, and I'll read the questions out loud at the end and just answer them for everyone. Also, the material I'm going to show you today, I am using material from one of our workbooks. And I wanted to show you where that is in case you wanted to purchase workbooks, or if you have the most current books, you can look at your book and follow along, but you don't need the book to follow along what I'm going to show you today. But if you go to our website and go to Beginning up at the top and then Training Workbooks, you'll see different packages and the pricing. But then here's all the different topics in the workbooks. What I'm using today is from M201. And it's the very end of the book. It starts on page 20. I think the visit starts on 25, but we're starting on 26, right, with setting up visits. So that's the book you can get this from or look at if you own the book and wanted to follow along. But again, you don't need the book to understand what I'm showing you today. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to open up the program. I think I remembered all the pre-webinar things, but again, apologies if I stumble anywhere because I haven't done a webinar since last year. And actually, I think Rachel will be joining us. I just saw her out the window. She must have ran and gotten her lunch. So we should have a question answer at some point here. It looks like maybe Josh jumped in to help. All right. So if you're following along, I'm on page 26, and we're going to look at setting up the visits. Now, the visits area is an area where you can set up security for that, and sometimes you may record confidential things. Maybe the pastor visits somebody at the hospital or counseling or rehab or even at home, but maybe, there's personal information there that you don't want everyone to see. So that is something. Let me close this real quick. Show you before we set it up because I think it's important here. If we go to administration and security, notice right here it's all grayed out because I don't have security set. We have these people set as inactive. But notice here across the top, the fourth tab is visits. So visits has its own tab where you can set different levels of security or not allow the login any access to visits. So you might want to take a look at that because you might be recording information in there that not everybody should be reading. All right, so to set up the visits, first we need to go to the visits area. We can access it from the shortcuts right here in the lower right, the little flowers with thinking of you. That would take us to the exact same place as if I went up in the upper left to people and clicked visits. So the middle is just shortcuts for things you can get to up at the top by clicking the word and then a button below. So this opens up our visit screen, and we see right now we have it set to show all of 18 through 19. Up at the top we can see it in red, but we are going to look at how we can set up a visit. To do that, first thing we need to do is click on this button at the top middle, Add Visit. And when I click that, that opens up my new visit screen. And we're not going to set up a visit yet. First, we need to set up the different things you might record about people for that visit. So if we look over to the right side, let me go ahead and get a pen. They changed GoToWebinar this year too. I opened it up and it was different. I'm like, whoa. All right, so the three things we really need to set up before you can start entering your visits are who they were visited by, and the location of where they were visited, and the reason. Now, you don't have to use all these, but if you'd like to use these three different things or any of those, you need to set up the different items that you could record within there. So let's erase this and get my clicking tool back. So first thing we have is visited by. And if we click the down arrow, we can see what's already in these different fields. Now, making a new item for each of these works the same way. So I'm going to show you with one, and I'm not going to make a new location or reason, but I'll go ahead and make a new visited by. To make any of these, what we do is click this little pencil or the plus pencil minus, which is add, edit, or delete. And when I click on that, it brings up a window showing, it's called maintain visited by codes. And this is where you can make new codes, delete codes, mark codes inactive, print a list of your codes, or select a code to add if you want to go right into the box and do that instead of the drop down. So we're going to go ahead and add secretary. Just put in SEC. The code is up to you. So is the description, but that is what I will see in the drop down list. I want that capitalized, so let me try again. Secretary. All right, so then I can just click add to add my new item, and I see it listed here. Now I can click on any of these column headers. If you have a big long list of things within any of these, you can click on the column headers to have it sort by that column. Right now it's sorting alphabetically by code. Well, it looks like everything there is already alphabetic, so clicking description really wouldn't do anything different. But I could have it go from Z to A or A to Z. But notice I can click on any of these column headers, and active really wouldn't make a difference unless I wanted to move inactive to the top and sort by that. But you can sort by any of the 3 column headers by clicking on them. So we'll go ahead and choose secretary. So I'll click on secretary and click select item. Now to make, I'm going to go ahead and turn the page if you're following along. It tells you at the top of 27, the reasons and locations are set up the same manner. I click the little plus pencil minus, and it's the same kind of screen. It just says this is the location codes. And then if I go to reason, we can see our different reasons. Same functions the same way to create a new code and description. Now to edit, delete our visits by reasons or locations, any of the 3 things on the right, I do need to go ahead and let's go ahead and we'll delete secretary. So I need to click the plus pencil minus or add, edit, delete by visited by location or reason, whichever one I want to edit or delete. And if I wanted to edit, maybe we just want secretary to be SCT. So I just click on what I need to edit and make my change. Maybe we just want it to be SEC. So I just click exactly where I want to make my change and make that change, backspace out, change it, do what you need to edit it. Now if I want to delete it, that's a little different. I just click the minus here at the right end of the line, and it tells me it asks delete secretary or sec, SCT. I could say yes. Now what if that's already in use? If I hit something already in use, senior pastor I'm pretty sure I used, yes, I can see it right behind there. If I click delete, it tells me visit code has been used. Deleting it will permanently remove this code from any visit that used it. Delete. So I can see back here, I've already used senior pastor on some things back on the 26th, so I want to keep that, so I would tell it no. Again, if I were to continue and say yes, then it's going to remove it from membership and also remove it from any records it was on. So we'll say no because we want to keep that. Now, if you have a bunch of codes and descriptions you no longer use, but you don't want to delete them off the record, then I could check here to mark it inactive. And then I could even sort my screen now. Whoops, I accidentally checked 2 inactive. Sort my screen by clicking on that inactive column header to just show the active up at top. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck those because I don't want them marked inactive. All right. Now, if we look on page 28, it tells you more on how to actually record the visits. Let's go ahead. Real quick, I'll show you here. If we click print on any of these maintain screens with the codes and descriptions, it just brings up a nice little report showing whatever was on that window that I was on, the different codes and descriptions I've created. All right, so let's go ahead and close. So to go ahead and add our visit, close out of here. We've set up all our locations, our reasons, our visited by. We have everything ready so we can start setting up some visits. We can see behind here we already have some entered. But if we want to put a new one in, we're going to go ahead and first in the upper left find who we want to record that for. So I want to find Nina. Nina Abendschein. So I find the person and click on their name. The screen now changes to show me any visits I've recorded for that person during the time range we see just under their name to the right. I'm going to go ahead and add a visit, so I can click the plus sign or the plus add visit, and that brings up the add visit screen, which we already saw. But we see Nina's name already filled in here. Now I could, if I hadn't picked Nina, I could click add visit. And right here on my add visit screen, I can look for the person there as well, so you could do it either place. The date automatically is defaulting to today's date. Maybe I'm getting things ready for next week, so maybe we're going next Monday. So we'll go ahead and put in 3/4/2019 as the date. The duration, that defaults to 30 minutes. You can choose hours, days, or I could change that if I wanted. I could change that to an hour. Actually, let's just change it. We'll make it, whoops, not 0. Hit the wrong thing. 1, not 1 minute, but 1 hour. If there's going to be a follow-up, you can record a follow-up date and print reports later on, to see who they need to visit for that follow-up date. So maybe a month later, maybe in April, April 1st, maybe an entire month later. We'll say on the 4th. We'll put a follow-up date in. We can even have the program add this event to scheduler. If you use the scheduler module, if we check here, it could add that event on the calendar and scheduler for us. So to go ahead and choose who visited, we can click the down arrow here. Now we could click the plus, pencil, minus, but it's a lot easier to just click the down arrow. Or if you have a big long list of items, instead of the down arrow, I could start typing what I'm looking for, and it's going to narrow down to what I'm typing. So it really depends on your preference, and if you have a big long list, it might be easier to just start typing rather than looking through the list. So the senior pastor is going to visit. It's going to be a home visit. I'm just going to click the down arrow because I don't have that many things in here. And it's a regular visit. So we choose as many. Now, if you don't want to fill all these in, you don't have to. You can put as many as you want. I'm going to go ahead and turn to page 29. If you're following along in the book, it shows you what your screen should look like at this point. If you'd like to add comments, there's a comment area where you can go ahead and put those in as well. And then below, we can copy these visits. It defaults to not copy it to any family members, but if you'd like to, maybe it was a visit to everyone in the family, rather than going to every single record and repeating all these steps with every person in the family, I could choose to have it add this to all family individuals, just the primary or secondary person or children only. Nina in our database is a single person, so it doesn't matter with her really. We'll put do not copy. We can also, if we're going to copy it though, we can choose whether we want to include the comments and do we want to include the follow-up date. So we'll go ahead and click OK. And because we chose to add the event, I checked add event and scheduler. It has now brought up the scheduler module showing exactly where the event, the date, the time. I could go ahead and add some more information here about location, context, and all that. I'm just going to save it so you see this does save it to scheduler for you if you go ahead and check add to scheduler. We're not going to go over that whole screen just because that'd be a whole other class. Let's look at now bottom of page 31. I'm sorry, let's look real quick at top of 31, editing a visit and deleting a visit. If you need to do editing, you can do that right here on the visit screen. After you've added the visit, it's already saved here. I can click on any of these columns. And if I click in the area I want to edit, notice as soon as I click here, I'll click on the name Eric Bernard. And as I do that, notice, well, not Eric, it won't. Well, it should do it for Eric. Oh, I'm sorry. No, Eric is the actual person they visited. I'm thinking that was the actual visited by. Here, we'll go to location. If I click there, we see here, it gives me a drop-down arrow where I can go ahead and edit that. Maybe this wasn't a home visit. Maybe they were in the hospital, so went to the hospital for that one. We could edit or change anything here we need. If you entered something in error and you need to actually remove that visit, all you do is click the minus at the end of the line, and we'll ask, are you sure you want to delete the visit? And here, because I chose the one we just entered, it tells me the associated scheduler event will be deleted. We're going to say no. I wanted to show you maybe that scheduler, so let's click a different one. So we'll delete this one just above it and say yes, we want to delete it. All right, if we look at page 31, we have how we can change the appearance of this actual visit screen when you open it up. And that's all done in the upper left by clicking on Change Dates, Filter, and Sort. That brings up where we can filter our visits to, on the options screen, any of these items. We can look for a certain person. We can look at a date range, visits that were a certain duration with a certain follow-up date, visited by, location, or reason. Maybe we just want to pull up the senior pastor's visits. So we just do one here. We'll say OK. And we see now this column visited by, it's showing that all we're seeing right now are visits by the senior pastor. So we go back in here. So we can filter by any of these items on the Options tab. On the Columns tab, right now we're showing all these different columns. I could move some of these over. Maybe we don't want the addresses report only, but maybe we only want to see, maybe we don't want to see the reason or the duration, follow-up. So I'm just moving anything I don't want. I'm moving it over to the left side. The person visited, that threw me off being in the middle. So I'm going to move that so it's the very first thing on the screen. So I can highlight anything I've moved over to the right side, visible columns, and then I have up and down arrows here where I can change the order they show in as well. So now let me click OK. Show you we've narrowed down what we're seeing to just the fields I want to see. Maybe you want to see everything. Maybe there's only certain fields you want to see in the visit screen. So again, you can change that on the Columns tab. We also can group and sort. Right now we're grouping and sorting by who visited. We can also tell it to group by that field as well. And then on the Fonts tab, we can change the fonts that we have for the header, the column headings, or the body text. I want to also show you, let me click OK here. And I'm going to go ahead and add all my columns back. All right, and I'm going to see, I don't know if I have any visits farther back. Let's see if we add back to 2014. There we go. Now we see a lot more visits where if I group and sort, it's going to make a little more sense. I can group and sort right here in the filter visit screen, but you can do it a little easier, a temporary one. Right here, maybe I want it grouped by the person. I can click on a column header and drag it up above the row of column headers and let go, and it's going to group by that column. So here I've got it grouped by the person who has visited. Maybe within that, then I want them to group by who visited the person. So now we see, if I open all these up, now they've only been visited by one person, but had they been visited by other people in the church, we'd see a second grouping under the first one, showing who else they were visited by. Now to remove that, I can just drop these back in the columns where I want them. I can also sort right on this screen by just clicking on any of these column headers. And that's going to sort by that column. I just now made it do a sort. Looks like it's doing it by the first name though. So that might wonder, I'm going to have to check and see if that's a bug, because normally it sorts by the last name, and I just noticed it's sorting by the first name. So let's see here, if we did by reason, it's sorting by the code, but you can sort by any of those column headers if you don't want to have to go into the change dates, filter, and sort. And I forgot to tell you to turn the page, so I'm all the way to page 34, almost at the very end. Forgot one more thing on the change dates, filter, and sort. Wait a minute. Okay, no, I didn't forget. I'm sorry. Ignore that. The one other thing I want to show you is the visits report, and that can be found upper right. I can organize my screen to show exactly what I want. Maybe I only want to print out things for the senior pastor. So first I want to narrow my screen down to show exactly what I want to print. And then I can click on print. And it now brings up a report of exactly what I'd narrowed down to on my screen. But again, that's going to be set by what you choose here in Change Dates, Filter, and Sort. And I could also, I think I might be able to double click on these. Yes, if I double click, that will tighten these up so I don't have all that space in between. And now it probably almost goes to one page. Could probably hover on my margins, maybe fit it to one page. Almost. I'll probably take off that scheduler event since you don't need that. But very nice. All right, I think we are near the end. Got a minute left. I can stick around and answer questions for longer than that. So if you have questions, go ahead and type them in the question panel. I didn't see any come in while I was working through that. My microphone was on. Somebody would have told me if my microphone wasn't on all 20 minutes. I mean, it's a pretty easy area to understand, I think, once you go in and you see it. Pretty straightforward. I did not mention there's some things along the bottom. You can clear your filter, restore a default layout if you had one you liked. And restore saved goes back to the last one I had. Can have it expand everything if I had it all in different, like if I've gone up and done things like this where I've grouped them, I can tell it to expand all or collapse all. Or if I've added some new things, or if you're in a network setting, you might want to refresh the visits every once in a while if there's lots of people entering visits, which probably isn't common. All right. Are there no questions? Wow. I don't think I've ever had a webinar where there were no questions. Either I overwhelmed you or it's just, it's pretty easy to understand. I think it's the latter. All right. Well, if there are no questions, real quick, let me just show you one more time in case you joined us late. If you need to leave, just close with the X on the GoToWebinar toolbar. Just going to show anyone who may have come in late. Again, I took this material from our training workbooks, which you can find under beginning and then training workbooks. And this was from the M201 book. Here we go. And it was the very end of that, recording and reporting on visits. Also, if someone else signed you up for these and you're interested in what other topics there are, you can go under beginning to free training webinars. And here you can see all the different topics available. Right now we just had February showing, but March, you know, they've already told us what we're teaching, so that hopefully will be added here soon. The only month I think we don't do webinars is in January. Someone said they missed the report setup. Someone came in the office. Report setup is just really, you need to go into Change Dates, Filter, and Sort, and filter and get your screen to show exactly what you want. And like right now, if I double click in between these column headers, that will tighten things up so I could maybe fit everything to one page. Now when we were looking before, this little scheduled by checkbox was the only thing that went to the second page, and I really don't need it, so I'll just move that off. And let's go ahead and say OK. And now if I print this, just brings up a report of exactly how I've narrowed my screen down. So whatever you're currently showing on your screen is what will print on that report. If you just wanted, maybe, I think I showed everyone, I was doing just the senior pastor. If I were to remove that and click print, I'm going to have a much longer report. Well, not that much longer, but I think I'll need half a page before, and now we've got a little bit more showing. So, all right. You're welcome. Any other questions? All right. Well, if there are no questions, I'm going to go ahead and end today's webinar. Please feel free to sign up for as many as you like. They are free. We do record these, and then they will be put up on our website once they're cleaned up and just standardized. I think they put a little intro in the beginning with our logo. But it will be up on the website eventually here within the week, I believe. All right, I'm going to go eat a late lunch, and I'm sure I'll talk to you on the phone at some point. Have a great day. Hope you learned something. And it's just really weird not having any questions. Bye.